Awesome. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I think people are starting to flow in here right now. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you all had a really great Thanksgiving weekend. I know how tough Monday can be after a long weekend, so we appreciate your participation in today's information session. We'll get started in probably about a minute just to make sure that we allow for folks to start coming into the session. Okay, so just a friendly reminder, we are recording this session. So for the folks that aren't able to make it today, we can certainly send out a link to everyone as well. But we'll go ahead and make use of our full 30 minutes and get started. But once again, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Veteran Studies Information Session presented by the Social Sciences Academic Resource Center at UC Irvine. My name is Carissa Sorensen, and I'm the director of the center. And our special guest today is Dr. Anita Casavantes Bradford, who's the associate professor in Chicano Latino Studies and History, as well as the director for Veteran Studies Certificate Program at UC Irvine. If you have any questions throughout this session, please go ahead and just submit them down below in the Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We'll actually be addressing all your questions at the very end. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and pass it to Dr. Casavantes Bradford, and you may begin.
All right. Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming. I'm going to try and share my screen and pull up my PowerPoint. Maybe Carissa, you could unmute and let me know if you are seeing it once it's up. Okay. Are you seeing that, Carissa?
Yes, we are seeing that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm a bit of a tech newbie. So anyways, again, thanks everyone for coming. We're just going to do a brief info session on our new Veteran Studies Certificate program. I'm going to talk for a little bit, then I'm going to introduce you to one of the instructors that we've hired for the winter quarter class, and then we'll take some time for a little Q&A. All right. Now I can't get my slides to forward. All right. Try again, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay. Huh. All right, so I'm not sure why my slides won't forward for me. Let me see if I can pull this up and then forward it. Okay. And okay. Yeah, it won't let me forward. Okay, I'll just do it that way. All right, everyone, apologies. So my name is Anita Casavantes Bradford. I'm the director of UCI's Veteran Studies Certificate Program. As Carissa said, I am a professor of history and Chicano Latino Studies, so you may be wondering, why am I directing a Veteran Studies program? I'm directing this program because I helped create it at the request of our school dean, Bill Maurer. And the reason that he asked me to create this program was because we have a surprisingly low number of faculty who are military aligned. And yet he wanted to make sure that the university had some kind of a program that spoke to veterans' experiences. In my own case, I did not serve in the military, but I have spent my entire life in the military. And those of you who are from military families will know what I'm talking about. My father was a Korean War veteran and was also a POW in Korea. And when he returned home, struggled for most of his life with PTSD. And that experience of growing up in a household with somebody who was simultaneously very proud of his service and yet suffered greatly as a result of his service was very formative for me. And I went on to marry a Marine Corps officer, an F-18 pilot who served for 14 years active duty and continues to serve in the reserves. So, I've spent my entire life around the military, 2 different branches, and have a lot of love for folks who have served, as well as I like to think a fairly clear eye about some of what is best and worst about military life. And so I was very honored to be asked to help create this certificate program. My email is there if you have questions about the program. I also wanted to briefly bring everyone's attention to Patrick Del Rosario, who's with us today. Patrick is serving as the coordinator for the Veteran Studies program. So if you have questions about enrollment, admissions, et cetera, things like that, you can reach out to Patrick as well. And I also just want to give a heads up to Dr. Danny Molina, who is the director of UCI's Veteran Services Center, who has been really important in helping us develop this program and supports it as well. So later on, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Ben Schrader, who's going to be teaching one of our Veteran Studies courses in the winter. Okay. All right, so origins of the program. A couple of years ago, our Dean, Bill Maurer, asked us to move from a model in which the School of Social Sciences offered a 1-credit transition support class for veterans who were wanting a little bit of support as they adjusted to being in higher education. And he asked us to think of a way that we could more creatively support veterans while providing an opportunity for academic study of veterans' experiences. So the goals of the program was to create a space, first of all, a veterans-centric space where student veterans could talk to one another and talk to faculty who had either served or who were very close to people who had served about their own experiences with military service. We also wanted to give non-veteran students an opportunity to learn about the unique and complex experiences of veterans and veterans' cultures and their identities. And we also wanted to give students who might aspire to work with veterans, whether it's as social workers, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in healthcare, whatever, we wanted to give them an opportunity to learn about veterans in order to be able to serve them better. So again, this certificate program is open to veterans and non-veterans alike. The certificate has 3 undergraduate courses, each of which is worth 4 credits. And you'll notice that 2 of the classes actually satisfy UCI's GE requirements. So that means that if you decide you want to complete this certificate, you can sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can satisfy your GE category 7, which is the multicultural category, by taking veterans in history and society, because that course is designed to tell you about the experiences of Black, white, brown, Asian, Native American, male, female, gay, straight, transgender, whatever, to give you the full complexity of veterans' experiences. Veterans' Voices, 134W, is a 100W class. For those of you that are UCI students, you know that's an upper level writing class that everyone has to take in order to graduate. And in this class, you get to read and think about literature that has been written by veterans, look at films, other forms of popular culture that have been created by veterans, as well as look at veterans' different forms of political and social activism, because we consider those ways that veterans also share their voices, right? The third class, Veterans Transitions, looks at the multiple transitions that veterans go through when leaving the military and reintegrating into civilian life. So that includes everything from going to college, getting a job, physical health transitions, dealing with injuries or disabilities, mental health transitions, right? This course does not focus exclusively on that, because one of the things we want to do is push back on popular perceptions that all veterans are damaged, right? That all veterans have PTSD. That is not at all the truth. However, mental health challenges are part of military experiences for a lot of people, so we do consider that as well. In that class, we also look at things like veterans homelessness. We look at veterans as entrepreneurs, all of these different transitions. So we offer the 3 courses in a 2-year cycle. Every 2 years, all 3 of these courses will be offered. So anyone who wants to complete the certificate can do so in 2 years. The reason that we did that is that most of our veteran students are community college transfer students. And so they're often at UCI only for 2 years. We wanted to make sure that any veteran who wanted to complete this program would be able to do so. And finally, courses are taught either by veteran scholars or, as I mentioned earlier, military aligned faculty like myself. And there's just a little asterisk there. I just noticed my spelling mistake, certificate, sorry folks. Graduate students may also enroll in all of these courses with instructor permission, and they may also complete the certificate. Couple of sample topics to give you a sense of what's covered in the course. So the Veterans in History Society class basically starts around World War I with the creation of the VA and comes forward to the present day. And it looks at everything from the experiences of diverse veterans in World War II, the experiences of Black and Brown veterans who came back to the US after fighting for freedom in Europe and fighting Nazi racism to come back to a society that was still deeply segregated. And then as a result of experiencing that contradiction, many of them went on to become civil rights activists, right? We look at Vietnam and the political transformation of 1970s America, which is sort of the moment when we trace today's political polarization to, and the ways that the experience of serving in Vietnam contributed to that political polarization for the country. We look at the experiences of women veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq, and the returning home to motherhood and civilian life, and what was that like for women that served. In the veterans transition class, as I talked about a little bit already, we look at all of these different transitions, including military-led transitions, as well as these other transitions to the workforce, to higher education. We look at the experiences of homelessness, incarceration, deportation amongst veterans, as well as more positive transitions, right? Veterans who go on to found businesses, veterans who go on to start nonprofits, who become politically active. So what I'm going to do now is actually turn it over to Dr. Benjamin Schrader, who can tell you a little bit more about what the Veterans Voices class covers. We will be offering Veterans Voices in winter 2021. Veterans Transitions will be offered in spring 2021. Dr. Benjamin Schrader is a US Army veteran who deployed and served extensively overseas and earned his PhD in poli-sci from the University of Hawaii. He is also a widely published author, most recently of the book, Fight to Live, Live to Fight, Veteran Activism After War. So over to you, Ben, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Great, thanks. So yeah, as Anita shared, I am a vet, and I am really excited to teach this course. I think that one of the things that really drew me to coming and doing this work is tied up with my own experience. When I got out of the military, I really wanted to understand my experience in the military. So, I did a couple things. I went back to school, and I got into activism, and I started exploring my identity as a soldier, and then later as a veteran. And so since then, as was pointed out, I got my PhD in political science, and wrote the book Fight to Live, Live to Fight, Veteran Activism After War, which focuses on veteran stories and veteran narratives of people who got out and became social justice activists. who, you know, saw that there was something wrong with everything that they were fighting for, everything that you know, uh, that they were told, and are out there trying to make a difference still, as a part of their service. And so, one of the some of the things that we'll be doing in this Veteran Voices course is going back and forth between these veteran stories and narratives and the writing. Because it's a writing intensive course, I've broken it in half, where we're going forward through time, starting back at the Revolutionary War and moving forward through these wars subsequently, uh, and going back and forth between that and these different ways of writing. The way the course is going to be split up, uh, you'll have two options. You can either write a research paper that you'll build slowly throughout the course, or you can create a writing portfolio, which will be a number of smaller activities, smaller reviews of different forms of writing. So things that you can do for the portfolio, you can do poetry, you can write songs, you can write you could do reviews of movies, you could do reviews of documentaries, you can write op-eds, you can write creative short stories, right? So the options are endless for how you can fill that portfolio out. Or if you're, you know, more analytical, you can just write a longer research paper. So I kind of want to give the flexibility to students to play to their strengths, so that they can look at these different forms of writing. Um, just to give a few examples of things that you could, that I'm still building the syllabus right now, but you know, thinking about the American Revolutionary War, we'll be reading an excerpt from George Washington, as well as from Thomas Paine, right, about the Revolutionary War. But if you wanted to write a review of Hamilton, the musical, right, John Adams, the HBO miniseries, right, there's tons of different opportunities to go into pop culture and see and talk about these things. Um, you know, and as I said, we'll be going forward through time. You know, you'll see Ambrose Bierce, the famous Civil War writer, um, Kurt Vonnegut, World War II veteran and author. Right, there's tons of different voices that we'll look through in time, all the way up into contemporary veteran experiences. So that's kind of an outline. I'm still ironing out some of the final details of the course, but I'm pretty excited for it. I'll pass it back to Anita.
All right, thanks so much for that, Ben. We want to open it up now for folks that have questions. I'm wondering, because we're a fairly small group, and there might be a way to just allow our participants to talk, and they could just ask their questions directly. Okay, maybe Patrick could do that for us.
Yeah, if you do have a question and you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. There should be a raise hand function either next to your name or at the bottom of the screen, and I can go ahead and unmute you.
All right, I think that folks have been allowed to talk, and then they would just need to unmute if they had a question.
I have a question. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carlos. So I'm just wondering for so these classes, because I've noticed that some classes, for example, like one class is taught just like once throughout the year, and for students that are close to graduating, are my question is, will these classes be taught like consecutively, like throughout the, like, you know, as the course follow?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question, Carlos. So it's normally, it's a 2-year cycle that we offer the classes in. So for example, Veterans in History and Society was offered last year. And then this year in winter, we're offering Veterans, Veterans Voices. And then in spring, we're offering Veterans Transitions. So if you were planning to graduate in June, then you'd be one class short. But with that being said, if you had room in your schedule, we could probably provide some kind of way to do Veterans in History and Society as a directed study, as an independent study with me. So, you know, if you were super motivated and wanted to get the certificate done by June, we could work something out.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I graduated in 2022, so I think I'll
Okay.
still have some chance.
Yeah, it looks like you'd be good. You would want to take Veterans Voices in the winter and then Transitions in the spring, and then do History and Society the following year.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we do have a question in the chat. To clarify, 3 classes must be completed to fill the certificate. Will all 3 classes be made available this upcoming winter and spring 2021 quarter?
Right. Hey, Herschel, thank you for asking that question. To clarify, yes, you do have to complete all 3 classes to fulfill the certificate. Veterans Voices will be available in winter, Veterans Transitions in the spring. Veterans in History and Society will not be offered until the following year. But again, I repeat, if you are graduating in June and you want to find a way to get this certificate done by then, get in touch with me and we can talk about doing Veterans in History and Society as a directed study. With that being said, you do not have to enroll in the certificate in order to enroll in the classes. If you wanted to take 1 or 2 classes just because, you could also do that. Herschel, did that answer your question? All right, cool.
And Anita, we did have some pre-submitted questions that I can also provide as well.
Awesome.
One of the questions someone asked, what sort of career opportunities does this certificate relate
Yeah,
to?
that's a really great question. And the answer to that is any other career that you were considering doing that has a human-facing component is going to have a possibility of working with veterans, right? So if you wanted to work in public health, if you wanted to be a doctor, if you wanted to be a social worker, if you wanted to work in the criminal justice system, if you wanted to work, if you were doing public policy or urban planning, and so you were interested in housing, for example, that is also something that working with veterans could be involved in. If you wanted to be an administrator, like if you're someone that's interested in business, that is, you know, there are multiple opportunities to work with veterans, both in business, but also in government. The VA is a huge employer, right? So there are endless different ways of working with veterans.
Thank you so much. Another question someone submitted previously, they wanted to know if there's a fees associated with the certificate.
There are no additional fees beyond paying the tuition for the courses as you would pay for any courses. With that being said, we are working to try and make the certificate available to non-enrolled UCI students. We are not there yet, but the goal is hopefully within the next year or 2 to be able to offer the certificate through UCI continuing education through extension. And we are also working to try and get certification so that students with VA funding, veterans that have GI Bill funds available to them, may be able to use their funding for this program. Again, we're not there yet, but if that's interesting to you, please reach out to me.
Great, thank you. And then one last pre-submitted question. Are there any volunteer opportunities or internship opportunities for students to get involved in the Veteran Studies Certificate Program or just veterans in general? if you know of any.
So that is such an awesome question. And I love it when students ask about how to intern and get involved. I would say to whoever that student was, please email me and Dr. Schrader, copying both of us, and we will brainstorm together. Okay.
Great, thank you. That's all pre-submitted questions.
Okay, we've got another 4 minutes left. If anyone who's here, Carl or Long or Vicky or Carlos or Herschel, if you have questions, happy to answer them.
Yes. Before I do leave, so you said a course will be for the spring, right? I think that was the voices, the veterans voices. So I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to like if I do sign up for the program, like for the certificate, I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to take it this spring because I'm gonna be doing an internship. Like, well, it's like a field study, because I'm also a major and with I'm also double major in criminology. So I was wondering, will you be offering that same class for the spring of the following year?
Yeah, so no, but again, what I said about directed studies, we could probably work something out. So to repeat the schedule for what we've got planned right now, Veterans Voices will be offered in the winter. Veterans Transitions will be offered in the spring. And then Veterans in History and Society will be offered sometime in the following year. But yeah, I mean, if you could get Veterans Voices done this winter, then you could enroll in Veterans in History and Society the following year and probably do Veterans Transitions as a directed study.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your answer.
You're welcome, Carlos. Anyone else?
Yeah, Dr. Bradford, I had a quick question. Carl David, and I'm a certifying official and I'm administrator for a satellite campus of a college in Missouri.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm on the base in Los Alamitos and a former Army officer. So I feel your passion and I appreciate it. And I work with Danny as well. But my question for you is, do you allow only matriculating students that are in UCI? Do you allow external students to come and take the course either in some manner or shape or form, whether it be virtual or whatever? Do you allow other students to take advantage of your program, which I think is super? So kudos to you. And if you could let me know how we could support you.
Well, thank you, Carl, and thank you for your service. And the end goal is to be exactly what you just said. We want to be open to students across the state, across the country. And we're sort of in the process of that and need all the help we can get in strategizing for how to do that. Part of it is going to be us demonstrating to the university that there's a demand from outside. So if you are able, if you could send me an email, I would love to talk more specifically with you about maybe how we could strategize.
Great, I'll do that. I'll definitely do that.
Thank you. So it looks like we are out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I want to say thanks to everyone for coming. Thank you, Dr. Schrader, for attending. Patrick and Carissa, thank you for organizing this. Dr. Bowie, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. Dr. Bowie is one of our colleagues here at UCI in the Department of Global Studies and is also a veteran. So thank you for being here. If you have further questions, please reach out to myself. If you have questions about the curriculum of Veterans Voices, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Schrader. And if you have questions about enrollment or anything to that effect, you can reach out to Patrick as well. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. And Carissa, I'll just turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Casavantes Bradford. And thank you all for being in attendance. We'll be sending out an email with the links to the Veteran Studies page, webpage, and enrollment form and everything that you need to know, as well as any specific emails as well. And I think that is all for today. So thank you so much. We hope you enjoy the rest of the week and take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Well done.